Hold on. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming along. We've got people in South Africa, and I'm guessing potentially in London and potentially in Pakistan. So thank you so much for coming along. If there's someone from another country, you can add your little flag into the chat, and you'd be most welcome. So I'm going to start by just thanking the guys that invited me to come along. And in particular, Asif and Jawaria, who came and invited me and approached me through LinkedIn. So I'm delighted to be associated with your company, which is called Consulting Innovators. And Consulting Innovators is based in the UK, in Saudi, and in Pakistan. So I'm really proud to be associated with you guys and helping you and facilitating this learning session with you. So thank you for that invitation. So welcome everybody again. And I thought today I would challenge myself and do something completely new and completely different. So what I'm talking about today, naturally I'm talking from my own experience, but I'm actually referencing a friend of mine. And as you will see on that first slide, the guy's name is James Kerr. And he was at a school where I worked in New Zealand called Christ's College. And he was very close to a lot of the All Blacks that play rugby for New Zealand. Now, I'm aware that Pakistan doesn't play rugby, but I'm sure you must have heard of the All Blacks and the Springboks and the French and the English and these teams. And this book is basically a book about the continuing success of an incredible rugby team, which has got the highest winning record of any sporting code in the world. They've got the highest percentage of wins in the history of their particular sport. And basically what James has done is he's spent time with the All Blacks to learn about what lessons they have in their sport that they can teach us in business and the business of life. And I think that today it's really just a discussion and a chat about these lessons that we've distilled from the All Blacks. And the great thing is that I think all of us who've played even sport at the most junior level, we play sport to participate and to learn about wins and losses and peaks and troughs, about training, about discipline, about teamwork, about collaboration, and about having fun. And all of those principles in sport apply to business as well. And what we'll do is we'll touch on just a few deeper points that will make you, as a young man or young woman who's entering the business world, to use those principles in your work and your home life, that will generally make you a better person. And what's so interesting about this book in particular is its title. And I reflected on the title immensely this afternoon. I really focused in on asking myself, what is my legacy? And that same question, what is my legacy, is a question I want you to ask yourself. What is your legacy? What are people going to say about you in your job, in your career, and the impact that you have made in your circle of influence? And I think that if you think about the end result of your career trajectory, and you can say to yourself, look, I really want to aim to be the managing director of such and such a company where I will impact 10,000 lives or 100,000 lives in a very positive way. And that you become known in your town or your city or your country, or even better still, in the world, for doing something of such huge impact to so many people around the world. That is a magnificent legacy to have, specifically that you can start to plan as a young person. And to have that ambition, to have that vision, and to have the ideal of having a positive impact on other people's lives. And remember that when you have that positive impact on someone else's life, you're having that impact on them, on their family, their wife or their husband, their grandparents, their community, and their town. So the idea of having a legacy is something that's far greater than yourself. And I think that's what the impact of this word legacy has on me, and the way I've just interpreted that this afternoon for you, or this evening for you. So James distills these 15 leadership lessons into 15. There are 15 players in a rugby team, and I think that's why he chose these 15 leadership lessons. And I'm going to try and whiz through them as quickly as possible. And you don't have to take notes at all. Just think of any questions that you may have. You don't have to take notes, because I will send you these slides afterwards, and you can have them and actually use them to give a talk about leadership yourself, should you wish to do so. But the idea around this All Black philosophy is that it centers around humility. And humility in itself is really making sure that you put other people ahead of yourself. And you think of yourself last when you're thinking about your team and your business and so on. You're putting other people, your customers, your colleagues, your boss, your employees, you're putting them first, and you are serving them, because a leader serves his people. It also focuses around responsibility, and your responsibility is to serve. So yes, you've got your job description and you've got to deliver, and it's your responsibility to deliver, but it's how you deliver that is so important. It's what your attitude is, it's how you treat other people, and it's how you speak to other people that they will remember. That is so, so important. So I've said it focuses around humility, it focuses around responsibility. It also focuses around developing yourself. And what that means is continuously developing yourself. Like I said, this afternoon, and I actually came across this book. Where is it? Yeah, there we go. Legacy. I've got the book Legacy here. And I thought, actually, you know what? I'm going to read this book again, and I'm going to share the ideas that come out of this book with you, because I think that they are so important. And of course, naturally, the idea that I actually know the writer and he's a friend of mine was even more important. And then the other thing is building what we call a team culture. And we can go into that a little bit further as I go through these slides. Now, there are only 5 slides, but each one's got 3 points in it that I want to talk to. So we're talking about the idea of having a beautiful culture in our organization that leads to a great deal of success in that business. And when you have a legacy of success, essentially you have a level of sustainability of your business. Your business will continue to prosper if you have a legacy of success and excellence. You aim very high in order for your business to continue to stay afloat and to stay being the best that you can possibly be. So that's sort of my introduction to the 15 lessons of leadership. And I'll start by the first principle, and I'll just go to my first slides here. And as luck would have it, all my slide notes have disappeared when I transferred them to the iPad next to me. So I've got to remember these off the top of my head. So you'll excuse me for ad-libbing a little bit around this. But essentially, the first point is about character. And your character really is your personal brand, if I can put it that way. And what was very common and what was very famous with the All Blacks was that captains of a rugby team, even at a junior level, were taught to sweep the shed. They left the shed where all the mud from the rugby boots and the junk was still lying around. They were the ones, not the cleaner, not the manager, not the groundsman, but the captain of the team. It was his job to have the character to actually sweep the shed. Now, if you translate that into a business sense, it's pretty obvious that you are the one where the buck stops as a young leader. And it's really important for you to have the broad shoulders, to have the sense that you have to clean up behind your team. You're not the first one to jump in your car and head home or head off to a party after the match or after a business deal. You're the one that makes sure that the boardroom or the office meeting space is all set, that everyone else has got a lift home, that they've got a cab home, and you're the one that makes sure that you switch the lights off when you lock the door when you leave your business. And that's what they call sweeping the shed. And someone with great character that herds his people out of the building and takes them, allows them to go home first. They talk about other analogies, that the captain is the one that leaves the ship last when the ship is taking on water. And this is the same principle that we're talking about here. So I'm going to end off with it there. But in other words, I will finalize by saying that you are never too big for your boots to do a menial job. Even if it's delivering a letter from your office to somewhere else. I know we don't use that frequently now, we use email, but you're never too big in your organization to do a small task. And that's the idea of character and sweeping the shed. And then the next one is you need to adapt. As a leader, you need to adapt fast. And in this instance, in the rugby analogy, they say you're the one that has to go for the gap. So when you have reached the peak of your knowledge, career, experience, and you're doing really, really well, that's when you change the game and create a new game, a new level of expertise. Now, I'm in South Africa, and our rugby team here is called the Springboks. And they've won 4 World Cups now, and they've won the last 2 consecutively. And what they did between the last one and this one is they came up with a whole new game. And it was unheard of before, but it was within the rules, And they developed a scrum, which I'm not sure whether you're familiar with or not, but instead of just substituting one or two players, they substituted the whole scrum in one go. It was like 7 or 8 players in one go. It's never been done in rugby before. Never been done. And they called it the bomb squad. And these were the big, heavy, strong guys that came on. They were the bomb squad that were going to come in and smash the opponents in the second half when the opponents were tired. You know what I mean? So they reinvented the game and they went for the gap, they adapted, and they won a second World Cup. So I know that, you know, a lot of you are sports people and follow sport. So inventing a new approach in business is not unusual, and going for something completely new is well worth the risk, the considered risk that you as a leader need to do or consider. And then the third point that I wanted to make here is in order to win the game, you need to play with purpose. And it's a very simple question. Why am I here? What am I here to do? And your answer is to win. I'm here to win at my job. I'm here to encourage my team to win at their job. And I'm going to help all my team members to win in their roles. So that's your purpose as a leader, is to make sure that everybody in your team, from the most junior members of your team, must be winning, and they must all be rooting for you and fighting for you and winning at their particular jobs. So that's what your purpose is all about. Why am I here? Okay, I need to do this job as best I possibly can, and preferably over-deliver. And that way we will win, and we'll get the business, and we'll satisfy our clients and exceed expectations wherever we are. So remembering that I'm moving along as quickly as I can, I'm going to go to the next one. So we've discussed character, adaptability, and purpose. The next one is responsibility. And responsibility in this context is about passing the ball to the next one. And it's your responsibility as a team leader to develop other leaders. It's very important that you don't feel threatened by the people around you, and that you lift them up. Because when you lift them up, they're going to lift you up. So what they mean when they say responsibility and passing the ball is passing on your knowledge, passing on your skills, passing on your experience, and passing on the ability for others to fill your shoes as quickly as possible. And I remember a personal example is that on 3 occasions in my roles before, I worked in 1 or 2 organizations where our team was particularly small. Our level of expertise was a narrow expertise. And what actually happened was, on 3 occasions, my assistant and myself, I always encouraged them to apply for my job, because they knew my job as well as I did. And on 3 occasions, I was successful in getting my assistant appointed to my role. And that is the responsibility of encouraging leadership and passing the ball to the next person who's with you. And the next one is about continuous learning and creating an environment where you are constantly a teacher. So every time you have a meeting, give your team a quote to consider. Ask them questions. In fact, it's really good that if you've got a team member who's particularly good at something, and it may just be a hobby outside of your environment, get them to present and teach the rest of your team something and teach you something at the same time. So you're always sharing information. You're always encouraging people around you to have this environment where there's continuous learning. Now, I'll give myself a little plug here, and that is what I do is when I'm coaching individuals, I give them a book list of what they should be reading. And I also give them heaps and heaps of articles that I've saved. I've got a whole library of articles that I've saved that I share with my students. And I also share my subscription lists to people that I really admire on YouTube. So it basically provides a shortcut for people to access some of the knowledge that I have. And that includes free coaching websites. Look, I'm not precious about where I learned what I've learned, and I will gladly share, some of, or access to some of my teachers that have helped me in my career. And I can just mention, perhaps just to give you a little bit of a break on all the heavy stuff, that I started my career in the army, in the military for, it was 4 years. I became a lieutenant, and then I joined the reserve. I became a captain, and then eventually a major in the army. And then during that time, that was when I was in the reserve, I coached tennis in America. I was a professional tennis coach, and I played a pretty good game as well. And there too, I became director of tennis, or one of the directors of tennis in Tennis South Africa. This was some years ago. I've farmed my whole career as well. I'm actually on a farm in the middle of nowhere in Africa right now. And so I've got a lodge that I'm developing for visitors, and where I can do leadership retreats and so on. And then I spent a career in Australia and New Zealand for a long time, coaching what we called advancement or business development, where I was a capital fundraiser. I raised capital for projects that supported what I call people, projects, and infrastructure. And we built massive research institutes for La Trobe University in Melbourne, and I worked in New Zealand and Australia, as I say. Now, I'll come back to my slide. Now, this is probably not the last one, probably not a word that a lot of people are familiar with, but the idea of leadership and not having any dickheads really just means don't be an idiot. When you're an idiot and people are not going to be interested in listening to you or following you, and if you do the wrong thing and behave in a poor way and don't set an example, and, we're talking about, if you're a junior leader, how you behave, how you carry yourself, the example that you set for your colleagues in your behavior is one that they will either find desirable and trustworthy or not. And that is what they mean by this particular comment. And this all adds to this strong, what we call team culture. You want to feel part of the team. And the team has different norms and standards and expectations of themselves, but also of the leader. There is an expectation of the leader. And I think this point that I want to make is that people crave leadership. People want leadership. They look for leadership to improve themselves, their lives, their schools, their work environment, their country. They want strong examples and strong leaderships that are honorable, that are trustworthy, and that can help deliver a great vision for the future of their organization and where they are. So I'll go to the next ones. And I'll start whizzing through this because I think, Jawaria, you must correct me how much time I've taken and who's next and how much time. I've got just 2 more slides to go. So I'll keep going, but if you send me a stop sign, then I will stop talking. But I'll just carry on for the moment.
I'm so glad. It's really mesmerizing listening to you. And you have shared such realistic points with us. That's really amazing. Thank you very much for being there. And you still have, it's your show. We are there here to listen to you, and all of them are there. Look at them. They are just listening to you.
Okay, well,
So
thank you.
hats off to you.
I'll
Go
keep
ahead. You have
going
all
for
the
another,
time.
say, 10 minutes. And then I'm happy to answer, and guys can come on and we'll make it interactive. And I'd be delighted to have some questions and we can just chat. So I've got 2 or 3 more quick slides and then we'll wrap it up and then we'll have some questions. And I look forward to hearing what you guys have got to say. So the next one is about setting high standards and expectations. Now, once again, what I find so interesting in the sports analogy is that people train so hard physically, they eat well, they train well, they have mental coaches, they have the sports psychologists that look after them. And when they are so well prepared for their events that they go into, whether it's the Cricket World Cup or the Rugby World Cup or rowing events where people have practiced and they know the times that they run in. Like we've just had the Olympics, and people have an expectation of coming out with a particular result. They know, hey, you know what, this time has successfully been at a gold, this is like a gold medal time that I've been running. So when I come to the right race and I've gone through all my little rehearsals and my rituals and I'm comfortable, I've got the confidence in me to go for that gold medal, then the time is right to actually embrace that situation. Now, I'll come back to you individuals. I don't know what stage of your career you're in now, whether you're students, whether you're qualified, whatever the situation is. But if you've been through a rigorous school education, you've got your degree, you've nailed your first job, and you've succeeded well, you've got some experience under your belt, you are accustomed to working in a rigorous, demanding environment. If it's one of the big 4 accounting firms or one of these places where there's huge demands on their junior team members, and you're used to that, that is when you're so well poised to aim at the next position that you're in. But, and this is a big but, what got you to where you were in your current role is not going to take you and succeed in the next role. Because as soon as you change your circumstances where you are, as soon as you change, the whole situation becomes new. And then you've got to reevaluate everything around you. You've got to reevaluate your role. You've got to evaluate your team. You've got to evaluate how you stand with your boss. You've got to embrace the values of the new organization that you're going to be working with and how you align yourself with those values. Do you have you evaluated the values of the next organization that you're working with, and how do you align with those values? And How are you managing? I'll give you an example. Recently, I was speaking to some trainers in Dublin, in Ireland. Now, as many of you know, accommodation in the big cities is very, very expensive. London, Dublin, Paris, Melbourne, Sydney. Accommodation for entry-level business person, anyone, accountant, lawyer, any professional, engineer, accommodation is very, very expensive. So people have to live on the outskirts of these towns. And in order to get to their offices, sometimes they're expected to do a commute of up to 1.5 hours in the morning and 1.5 hours in the evening. Now you multiply that by 5, you're already spending 15 hours a week, if my maths is right, just commuting. And what's actually happened with early graduates in Ireland is that they've discovered that the students that actually studied and finished their degrees during COVID just don't have the resilience to manage with these incredibly long, demanding days. So the idea now is how, as a leader, how do you mitigate for that? How do you manage that situation when you're traveling so far every day? How do you encourage and make provision for those youngsters to manage in a situation like this? So I think this is a question that I would like to just ponder. And, this may be a situation that you faced with as a leader. What would you do? How would you manage this situation? Then the next thing is about keeping a blue head, and I'm waffling on a bit now. So it's how to handle pressure. I have found, and I speak from my own experience, when things get really hectic, I just slow myself down into slow motion, and deal with things in big chunks like this. And imagine that, when I was playing sport, when I was coaching tennis, that the ball wasn't this big, it was actually this big. And I could see the ball slowly, and I'd be hitting the ball just as hard, but everything is in slow motion. And that was my way of keeping things in a blue head, as it were, and managing pressure. When you're playing sport, you often get the opportunities to manage or to be in pressure situations when the score is very close. But in work, what is pressure? It's maybe a boss that's given you an unrealistic deadline to fulfill. And there again, you've got to have the capability and the authenticity of knowing yourself, but also being able to say to someone, look, this is how much we believe that we can finish now. In other words, speaking up for yourself and being authentic to yourself and saying, look, we can do this. And this is what it's going to mean. And yes, we might have to get here at 5 or 4 a.m. tomorrow morning to be able to finish this by 9 o'clock. But it's actually knowing yourself, knowing your capabilities, and knowing how to handle that particular situation. I'm going to move on to, and I think this is my almost final one slide. I'll just have a quick look here. So I've spoken briefly already before about continuous improvement and growth and doing that extra little bit of sacrifice. The winner is the guy that has completed the match, that's probably even won the match, and that still goes out onto the field to do a warm down and to stretch and to communicate with their team and to debrief the team and what they did well, and what they did badly. And it's really creating those habits. And sometimes you may just be super, super exhausted. I remember on some occasions we used to do these marketing tours around Australia where you do for a whole week almost. you'd be doing all day visiting potential clients. That night you'd have an event, and afterwards you'd have to go down and take all the notes of the conversations that you'd had during that event. And sometimes you'd finish up at midnight, and then you've got to catch a flight the next morning at 5 o'clock or something. So it's doing that extra to make sure that your client is very happy and that you've got all the notes and you remember all the conversations that you have. And then I'll just quickly touch on the next ones. And for those that have just joined, we've been talking about 15 lessons from the All Black rugby team. But and this was about inventing a language or a ritual. Now, some of you may know the All Blacks have a ritual of doing the haka at the beginning of each game. And each rugby club throughout the whole of New Zealand has got its own different haka. And that's the language that they use to speak to each other, to rev themselves up for this particular match. So they've invented their own language. And the last one is pronounced whanau, and that means being a good ancestor. And this comes right back to the beginning of the conversation, and that is about James Kerr's book that I've been referring to, where the whole thing is about leaving a legacy. When you start your job or your new role, wherever it is, and you get promoted or you leave that organization, what is your legacy going to be? And how are people going to talk about you when you've left? Are they going to be the ones that celebrated the successes that you had, the new strategies that you implemented, the way you made people or helped people perform, the way you helped people win in their roles as well as your own? And you're a predecessor to the people that are going to follow you in your footsteps. And how have you made that happen? And this is my final one. And once again, I'm not going to talk too much about that. And this is about, plant a tree that you'll never sit under. I came back to South Africa after 24 years to where I am right now. My biggest regret was that I never planted enough trees. And this is a real tree. But at the same time, in my business career, I know that I planted enough trees because I was able to teach and to get many of my successors to follow in my footsteps. And I know that because they still keep in touch with me, and we still communicate, and we still laugh about their successes and their failures. Now, a good exercise for you to do tonight, although I know it's quite late in Pakistan now, tonight is to write your vision for your career. Wherever you are in your career, if you're in your 20s, write your vision for what your pathway is going to look like by the time you reach 50 or 60. Write it now. And write a letter to yourself. And even if it's a letter to yourself for only the next 3 years, do that plan. And create for yourself a step ladder of how you're going to improve and to win and to achieve success by getting better in order to climb that ladder that will be your lasting legacy. Now, I know it's 1:45 already, and I've got one final slide, and I think this is a bit of a plug for myself as well. My business is called, it's nowadays called just simply Ric Fletcher, but it's Business Growth Strategists, and it's at ricfletcher.com. And if anyone would like to have a personal conversation, a free personal conversation with me about your career, about where you are now, about my coaching program, and I offer what's called the 90-day program. It's 12 weeks where I guarantee you, if you start as a leader in a new role, I guarantee you, you will be the best leader that has ever been in that organization, because I will provide for you the tools to use week by week by week by week. And I'll be your personal coach for you to shine in your business and to make your business so glad that they hired you. So that's a little bit of a pitch. You can get hold of me on LinkedIn. So I invite all of you just to look me up under my name on LinkedIn and connect with me there. And you can send me a direct message and we'll send you the details on how to book a call to have a bit of a chat. And then lastly, before I take any questions, and I welcome some questions, I just want to thank Asif and Jawaria for inviting me to come along and have this chat with you. I want you guys to have a very close look at consulting engineer innovations or innovators, consulting innovators. And Asif, I'm sure he will be able to help place you in roles that you're looking for in the rest of the world. So I'd encourage you to contact either Jawaria or Asif to help you on that journey to reach your fullest potential. And remember, if you reach your fullest potential, you impact your family, you impact your company, you impact all the people around you to reach their fullest potential. And wouldn't it be great to walk away tonight with an idea? And I don't want you, this is called falling off the cliff at the end of a talk. Don't fall off the end of the cliff tonight. Promise me one thing, that you, and I know that every single one of you, you wouldn't be here if you didn't have some ambition, and if you didn't want to improve your lot and you didn't want to achieve your best outcome, you wouldn't be here now listening to me talk. So all I'm going to ask you to do is to please go and journal, write down just 2 paragraphs, write it down tonight, and clearly articulate what you want to do, and figure out how you're going to do that. And it may even just be to give me a call, so I can help you and I'll ask you questions, because all I do is ask questions. You come up with your own answers, and then I'll do a bit of coaching as we go along and we make that progress. So I'm going to stop there. And Jawari, if you want to ask anyone to give, ask questions or just to, if you want anyone to,
Yes.
you're very welcome to ask me a question. And this is me now, just me on the screen. So you're very welcome just to unmute yourself and put your camera on, and then I'll see if I can help you.
Please. Thank you so much, Rick. It's really nice listening to you. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming over here. I'm Javeri Asad from Consulting Innovators, and we are here today because we had just like Rick has shared, that it's very important for you to be humanitarian. It's very important for you to be a visionary, because if you don't have a vision in your life, you cannot you cannot achieve any success. Like, you will be like a rolling stone, either you'll be here or you're there. But if you have a vision, you can reach your goal. Yes,
Absolutely.
we have. Yes, we have, we when we met Rick on LinkedIn, we found him. We picked him up for a reason. Like, we found that potential, and we are so glad that he delivered that potential. They delivered that energy in you, and I hope you won't regret after this webinar that you didn't waste your time. I know the time is very precious, and we will keep on we will keep on going. We will keep on providing such opportunities for all of you, so you can all come up here with your questions, with your queries. The chat box is open for you. Even if anybody or any one of you wants to, ask directly question, he has shared his profile. All the profile is there on and you can also, you can raise your hand and you can ask the question directly.
I
But
see, I
from
see
content creator, we all are.
Haroon has
Yes, please.
asked me a question, or he's interested in saying something. Haroon? Javed?
Yes,
Haroon?
Karen, please go ahead.
No? Anyone else? Don't be shy. I don't bite.
Not at all.
Sam?
Well,
Sam
anyway,
Williams?
whosoever,
Sam, where are you from? Sam,
whosoever.
you can ask a question. No one? Okay, that's perfectly fine. And if you want to ask me or connect with me on LinkedIn in private, you're very welcome to do that. And yeah, just send me a direct message on LinkedIn and we can connect that way. So I think if there are no more questions, I'm going to say good evening and hope. Here we go. I need basics from learning. Just let me see this question. Hold on. Here we go.
Okay.
I can't see the question.
All right. I guess I guess it will be better luck next time, inshallah. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rick, for giving us time and for coming over here and sharing your insight here. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming and joining here.
So I've
I'm
just
so sorry.
responded.
Yes.
I've
Yes,
responded
please.
to Haroon. I just said he must contact me on LinkedIn. But yeah, please, it's easiest for you just to connect with me on LinkedIn. It's perfectly fine. Okay, guys, I'm going to say goodnight and thank you so much for this opportunity. And we'll be on this show again in 2 weeks. So I look forward to all of you being here again and think of some questions. And even if you want to just send me your vision for your career and your future as a direct message on LinkedIn, do that, because it's a way of showing me that you really took what I said to heart and you mean it. You've got to have the vision and do what you say you're going to do. So thanks, guys. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Hopefully.
Okay, then. Good night.
Here, along. Good night.